So the story's going to be a little different. This is just kind of an excerpt from my Dotlove Comic series, the comic series I've never actually drawn or created. In my Dotlove Comic series, there's a arc. It's after the fall of Queen Flawn, the really fat lady. The demis when they die, the demigods when they die, in my comics, I think I called them thetas. They're the things that attach your soul to your body. And when you reduce those or remove them, for the demigods, their bodies turn to stone, and it's unbreakable stone. You can't. It's literally unbreakable. It's like the word for it in their language is like indestructible. And well-trained demis in my comic have the ability to pull the thetas off of their bodies and induce the state of having the stone body at will. But only certain ones can actually move in that state, and that is my character Dotlove, because she's literal power is she's just crazy fucking strong, unnaturally, freakishly powerful. And there's a lot of attributes to being just physically strong that people really don't know and really don't think about. An example of this is there's a whole page in my comic where Dove takes on this guy that can run like really fast, and he can move like he's a demigod that can move really fast. And Dove is actually a semi-demi. The semi-demis are, because demigods are mortals mixed with gods. That is what a demigod is. Dove being a semi-demi is lesser than, because that means the semi-demis always have kind of a niche thing they have. They don't really have the broad spectrum of super healing, super speed, super regeneration, like all the spectrums a demigod would have. So Dove's specific thing is she does have a higher than normal regeneration rate, but she also she can turn, basically her thing is strength. Raw strength. She's not very fast. So this kind of lore is kind of important for the story. So what happens is Dove basically ends up having to lead the kingdom after Flawn turns to stone. And Flawn was a great teacher, and I guess even better mother. But teaching and being parented are not an excuse for direct experience. Direct experience is what's important, and kind of the way that teaching is done in Flawn's form is straightforward. You learn something, and then you demonstrate you have the skill. That's the experience part, by the way. Now, after Flawn's death, Dove has to lead, and she has to give speeches, and she starts making mistakes because she doesn't know any better, because she doesn't have Flawn's experience in what she's doing. And she's kind of learning as she goes, and the issue is this other dude comes along. He's also a semi-demi. He has super speed, but he's antisocial. And he basically curses her and then begins to manipulate her to convince her she's too stupid to lead. She doesn't have it. And he never describes what it is, but she just doesn't have it. And she witnesses this guy who's charismatic, and he has all the traits of what normal people would think would be a great leader. And this guy's plan goes over great. He manages to cripple Dove, convince her she's stupid and useless, convince her that he needs to be in control. And this entire event escalates to basically, because it's Dove's kingdom, she inherited it, and this guy basically forces Dove to make the decision that they need to have a kind of electoral vote, and it's not an actual electoral vote, it's a popular contest. Dove has done things that's completely unpopular for totally logical reasons, like economic strife. This guy, however, hasn't made any mistakes, so there's nothing to compare him to. So, because he hasn't made any mistakes, people like him. And he uses all these things to his advantage in order to beat Dove during this entire crisis. Now, Dove does have one thing this guy doesn't have. Debbie's. In my comic, there's a character with blue hair. Her name is Debbie. And she is originally Flawn's right-hand girl for handling most situations. She's also part of the Shadow Folk, who are basically the Secret Service. In my comics, they're normally trained human. They're normal humans that are trained to literally kill demis. They specialize in all types of special task skills, and one of the biggest skills they have is observation. And they're quick. They literally are trained since they are kids forward in a lot of their skills, but not just trained. They're used direct experience, but the kids are also mixed in to have life experience. So they're not emotionally stunted. They're fully developed, intelligent adults who think well beyond their years due to their training. Debbie's great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, Debbie, they have blue hair and pink eyes. It's part of their race in my comic. And they're blueies. That's what they're referred to as. They're referred to as blueies. Debbie basically catches on to this guy's game. Figures out that Dove's being played. Figures out, like, by looking at is basically breaking into his house illegally. And anything the Debbies do is not illegal. They are literally the law. And they are the eyes and ears of the queen. Which is Dove, regardless of this guy takes over the kingdom. And it's kind of funny because the Debbies are like, oh, we already sweared fealty to Dove. Sorry, we can't help you. And this creates a big fucking problem with this guy because basically he's really smart and he's great at manipulating people, getting control and getting them. Like, he basically uses the entire village to watch Dove and basically report back to him, and he's basically kind of like, he has a cult kind of mentality that spreads through the kingdom immediately. And his cultish style psychology infects everybody. With the exception of the Debbie, the people, the bloodline of Debbie, because the guys aren't called Debbies, but they're the bloodline of Debbie. And they're funny because the only thing they have that normal people don't have is their training, which makes them extremely difficult to deal with. So there's kind of a secret infighting going on between these events. Now, eventually this dude beats Dove. He takes over the kingdom. She falls into a depression. And then basically he's like, look, there's a vault of weapons and gold. And the weapons in my comic are always serious weapons. They're like basically nukes. They're like doomsday level kind of shit, which is why Flawn had the weapons sealed in a massive vault in a cave underground. And they were sealed by Dove over 400 years ago. Because Dove is the only person physically capable of moving the massive boulder that's blocking the way. So this guy leads his army of followers. They're all like MAGA chuds. And they're convinced this authoritarian dipshit who has done nothing but lie, manipulate, and destroy his competition in order to win. And he has this backstory that's kind of sad because what happens to him is he's a half brother to a bunch of other demigods, and they're full-fledged powerful demigods. So he learns from a young age to cheat at everything, to keep everybody fighting one hand behind their back, play dirty at everything, go low every time, and make sure nobody knows you did it. And if somebody does accuse you of it, you accuse them of doing it. Darvo. And this guy is just a motherfucker. He is just a motherfucker. And he fucks everything up. If he didn't interfere in things and he wasn't such a fucking loser, he could have been a great person. And this is the aspect of Debbie. She literally says this to Dove because what happens is they go to the underground chamber. He's basically bringing Dove behind her the entire time while passive-aggressively talking shit about her. Making sure she quietly knows she's stupid and useless and doesn't have any power. And, Well, they get to the giant boulder, and Dove looks over, and there's this bench. It's a stone bench that's been there since forever. Flan tells the story of her mother when Flan was a girl, sitting in her mother's lap, and her mother playing a harp for her in this bench. So this bench is like really old. Dove looks over, sees the bench, and walks over, sits down on it, and then just starts kicking her legs. This guy looks over, and he's like, what the fuck? You're supposed to move this boulder. I'm supposed to get access to power, because this guy's a loser. And that's his nature. It's in his blood to be a loser. And the only thing stopping him is Dove, exercising the only power she has, not to move that rock. And in this, because of Debbie, because always in my comic, Debbie is a symbol and pretty much a marker. Sometimes it's deities, but mostly it's Debbie that do it. But there's other characters that do it. The great makers. They're the ones that go and get the people who are capable and remind them they're capable, remind them they have power. They're the ones that intercede and change history through simple conversations and doing the right thing. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I just did. Sue me. So Dove sits down on the bench, and Loser Man comes over, starts basically yelling at her, to which she kind of sits back up, puts her hands behind her, and then says, you know, I used to come down here with my mother, and her butt was so fat, it took up this entire bench when she sat on it. And I never got to sat on it. This is the first time in over, I think she's 450 years old at this point. Dove's like, 450 years I've actually sat on this bench, because every time my mother came down here, she sat on it. And she's like, isn't it weird that demis and even semi-demis don't ever actually have to sit down or even sleep for that matter? And the guy's like, whatever your existential crisis is, you need to mop it up and go move that boulder for me. And then Dove freezes and looks at him and basically says, I know, but I'm not going to tell you how I know, because Debbie told her. That's the entire thing, is Debbie analyzed this guy, figured out who he is, what he's doing. And Debbie has an entire psychology book, and they literally have little pictures of people, and it covers their, like, antisocial psychologies. They literally have pictures and fucking, there's all types of way. The book literally has hand-drawn maps on how to deal with these people, how to handle them, how to defeat them, how to beat them. It's funny as shit, because it's literally just collected knowledge from over the centuries, all compiled into a single fucking book. Debbie literally can just take a handful of personality traits, find your personality in the book, and understand you immediately, and it makes her hilarious, because people mistake her for being an empath or being like able to. It's literally just a book she has on her that enables her to do it. And when she's not bodyguarding Dove, she's memorizing these things. So basically, Debbie tells Dove everything she needs to know about this guy. So Dove challenges him to what I guess they call an avatar, like an Agni Kai. He challenges the dude to a fight to the death. And he literally is like, we already know who's going to win this. I'm way faster than you. And Dove basically tells him, like, no, I'm gonna win. And they get into a fight. This dude hits Dove with this massive, super-powered, speedy punch, but that's all he's got. That's all he's got. He doesn't have any real training, because he's been cheating the entire time. Dove actually learned how to turn her skin to stone. One of the things that come up in my comic is the demis their eyes can perceive things. Their eyes take more pictures per second than normal people, meaning everything moves in slow motion. Some of the semi-demis have that, some of the semi-demis don't. Dove doesn't have that, but what she does have is she gives off a massive amount of spirit energy, and that spirit energy that leaks off of her can be forged into certain things. Specifically, she forges her spirit energy into basically golden contact lenses that enable her to see things faster. The golden contact lenses slow things down, enables her to take more pictures per second. Flawn had an entire library dedicated to semi-demis for Dotlove to learn from the books to compensate for her inadequacies. And this is important because this is motherly love. Flawn literally enabled Dotlove to match a demigod on every level using the tools she had at her disposal. This loser, whose family rejected him, told him he was a semi-demi loser, that he wasn't a god, didn't have that. He didn't have that support system, so the only thing he learned how to do was lie, bullshit, manipulate, and kill and destroy to get what he wanted. It was his only skill, because that was the only way he was going to survive. And that was the only thing his family respected about him, is he did survive. And now he was going to take over a kingdom and prove to mommy and daddy he's worthy of love, and that wasn't going to happen. So he gets into it with Dove, quickly finds out she can see him when he's moving. She can perceive him, and even though he's faster than her, and beats her in a million times, and like basically he's almost untouchable. Just because she can see him, she ends up just grabbing his arm and then just beating the fuck out of him. She beats the shit out of him. And this is the thing, she is cursed at this point, so she's not mentally well. And that's what the curse did, is it fucked up her mind to begin with. So she beats the fuck out of him. And in mid-fight, she tells him basically, you're going to take the curse off. And he refuses because he knows the only way to win is by what this church would say, keep them fighting, one hand behind their back. To which she continues to beat him. And the beating turns cruel, and all of his followers, because there's a barrier put up for demigods to fight, they're trying to get into the barrier and save him because they are just watching her be unnaturally cruel to this guy. He can't get his arm free, he can't regenerate, and he can't risk losing an arm. So as she's breaking his bones and she's tearing out parts of his face and smashing him again and again and again, he turns into a bloody pile before finally fucking taking the goddamn curse off of her. And once Dove has a clear head, she tears his jaw off and then smashes his head on the ground, ending the fight, and then the guy turns to stone. Now, this guy isn't dead. In my comic, you can beat a demigod and a semi-demi until they turn to stone temporarily to regenerate and come back, and that's what's wrong with him. Is she beat him so thoroughly that he has to regenerate. He has to take time to regenerate Thedons to reattach his soul to his stone body so that he can come back. Dove tells him, basically, as he's turning to stone, she looks over at the bench, and the conversation is like, I can't believe I got to sit on that bench finally. I really don't know what to say about that. It's regretful it'll be the last time I sit on that bench. And then she walks out to the end of the cave, the other end of the cave. And then there's a loud slam, and everybody hears it, and they realize they're locked between two boulders now. And Dove has abandoned them for choosing that guy. That guy comes out of it, and then these people end up cannibalizing each other, and then that guy ends up eating all of them. But even with that, he still can't move that fucking boulder that Dove put in the way. And that is where he lives out his life, trapped in that cave, underground. A boulder away from supreme power on one end, and a boulder away from freedom on the other. And Dove returns to the kingdom to lead, as is the natural order. I don't know why I felt like telling the story. I was just watching the Cinema Therapy guys fucking Encanto, and for whatever reason this story just came to me, so I hope you guys enjoyed my long, boring story.